Darius Cole didn't drive 3 hours to his late mother's quiet little house to find strangers inside it. He didn't unlock his own front door and hear children whispering, like mice hiding in the walls. And he definitely didn't expect a woman to step out of the kitchen, holding a frying pan like a shield, with tears already running down her face. But what happened in the next few days didn't just change his plans. It changed the kind of man he was willing to be. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any stories like this. So let me take you back to the beginning. Darius Cole was the kind of black man people noticed without him trying. Mid-30s, broad-shouldered, quiet voice, eyes that looked like they'd seen too much too early. He worked in Charlotte as a project manager for a construction firm. Good money, long hours, and the kind of stress that doesn't shout. It just sits on your chest while you sleep. And he was a single dad. Not weekend dad. Not, I'll call you later dad. He was the one who braided hair when YouTube videos didn't make sense. The one who packed lunch, signed field trip forms, remembered dentist appointments, and still tried to look like he wasn't drowning. His daughter, Mia, was 8 and stubborn in a funny way. She could argue with a wall and almost win. His son, Jaden, was 5 and tender-hearted. He cried at cartoons and apologized when the wind knocked something over. Their mother had been gone for 2 years. No dramatic story, no scandal. Just sickness, fast and unfair, and a funeral that didn't feel real until Darius went home and saw her shoes still by the door. He never really recovered. He just learned to move while carrying grief like a backpack he couldn't take off. That's why, when his doctor told him his blood pressure was too high and his chest tightness wasn't just stress, Darius didn't argue. He nodded like a man taking orders in battle. The doctor gave him that look, half warning, half concern, and said, "If you don't slow down, your body will slow you down, and it won't be gentle." So Darius made a choice. He used his small vacation days to take the kids to his late mother's old house, a modest place on the edge of a quiet lake town called Pine Ridge. His mom had loved it there. She called it peace with a porch. After she passed, Darius kept the house, but he barely visited. It felt too full of memories, too quiet. Still, he told himself, a few days of fresh air, simple meals, no emails, no meetings. Just him and the kids. A reset. And that's how, on a Friday afternoon, his SUV rolled into the driveway. Right away, something felt wrong. The porch light was on. In daylight, a pair of tiny sneakers sat neatly by the front steps, pink and glittery. And the curtains, which Darius remembered as plain beige, now had little paper snowflakes taped to them like someone had tried to decorate. Mia leaned forward in her seat. "Daddy, why are there shoes outside?" Jaden whispered, "Maybe Grandma came back?" Darius forced a small laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "Grandma's not coming back, buddy." He stepped out, keys tight in his fist, and walked up the porch slowly. The doorknob turned too easily. It wasn't locked. Now, if you were in his shoes, what would you think? Because Darius didn't think sweet family in need. He thought break-in. He thought danger. He pushed the door open, and there it was. The smell of food. Not old, dusty house smell. Fresh, like onions and warm bread. He heard a child giggle from somewhere down the hall. Darius stepped inside like the floor might betray him. Then a woman appeared from the kitchen, hair wrapped in a scarf, wearing a faded hoodie and jeans. She held a frying pan with both hands, not raised to attack, but ready. Her eyes were wide, red at the edges, like she'd been crying before he even walked in. Behind her, 2 children peeked out. A little girl, maybe 7, clutching a stuffed rabbit, and a boy about 4, half hiding behind her, thumb in his mouth. The woman swallowed hard. "Please, please don't." Darius's voice came out sharper than he intended. "Who are you? What are you doing in my house?" The woman flinched, like the words hit her. Mia stepped closer to her dad. Jaden grabbed the back of his shirt. The woman looked past Darius to the kids, and something about her face changed, like she understood he wasn't just angry. He was scared. She lowered the frying pan slowly, set it on the floor like it was suddenly too heavy, and lifted her hands. "I'm sorry," she said, and her voice cracked on the last word. "I'm so sorry." We didn't know. I didn't know you were coming. Darius stared. You didn't know. This house has an owner. It's not abandoned. Her lips trembled. I thought it was. I swear. The mail was piled up. The yard was overgrown. The back window, it was already broken when we found it. Darius felt heat rising in his chest. The doctor's warning flashed in his mind, but anger was faster. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. At that, the little boy started crying. Quiet at first, then louder, like his body finally gave up trying to be brave. The little girl wrapped her arms around him and glared at Darius with the fiercest eyes a child could manage. Please don't take my mom away. And if you've ever been looked at like a villain by a child who doesn't know your story, you know it can shake something loose inside you. The woman stepped forward one small step. Please, she whispered, just give me 5 minutes. Let me explain. If you still want to call, I won't stop you. Darius hesitated, just for a second, and in that second, he saw it. Not just fear. Exhaustion. The kind that lives in bones. He sighed through his nose. 5 minutes. The woman nodded fast. Thank you. She led them into the living room where blankets were folded neatly. Toys were stacked in a corner, and the dusty old couch now had a clean cover draped over it like someone tried to make it home. She sat on the edge of the chair like she didn't deserve to take up space. My name is Renee Harper, she said. This is Ava and Noah. Ava lifted her chin, still protective. Noah sniffled, rubbing his face with his sleeve. Renee took a shaky breath. My husband died 8 months ago. Car accident. 1 minute we were arguing about groceries. The next minute, she stopped, swallowed, and shook her head. He was gone. Darius's anger softened just a hair, but he didn't show it. Renee continued, words coming out like she'd been holding them in her throat for too long. After that, everything fell apart. The rent went up. My job cut hours. I tried so hard. But when you're behind once, it's like the world keeps stepping on your fingers while you're climbing. Ava's eyes filled up, but she didn't cry. She just listened like a grown-up forced to be too grown-up. Renee's voice dropped. We got evicted last week. We stayed in my cousin's living room for 2 nights, but she has 3 kids and a 1-bedroom. Then I slept in my car with them. I told myself it would be temporary. I told them it was an adventure. She let out a bitter little laugh. I was lying to my own children, and they still smiled for me. Darius stared at the floor, feeling something twist in his chest. Renee wiped her face quickly. I drove around Pine Ridge because I used to come here with my grandma as a kid. I remembered this street. I saw this house. It looked empty. I saw the broken window. The back door wasn't even latched. She looked up, eyes begging but not demanding. I didn't want to steal. I just needed a place to breathe. A place with walls. I've been keeping it clean. I haven't touched anything personal. I just wanted my kids to sleep without waking up scared. For a moment, the room was so quiet you could hear the old fridge humming in the kitchen. Mia tugged Darius's hand. Daddy, she whispered, like she was afraid to say the wrong thing. Darius felt his throat tighten. He still had every right to be furious. But he also had children standing behind him. Children who were watching what kind of man their father chose to be. He exhaled slowly and looked at Renee. How long have you been here? Renee hesitated. 3 nights. Darius nodded once. Then he said the words that surprised even him. Okay, here's what's going to happen. You're not staying here forever, but I'm not calling the police today. Renee's eyes widened. Darius raised a finger firm. This is my mother's house. I came here to rest, and my kids are with me. So we're going to do this with rules. Renee nodded fast. Yes, anything. He paused. He didn't know why he was doing this. Maybe because he remembered the helplessness of losing someone. Maybe because his mother raised him to never shut the door on people who were already on the ground. Or maybe because, deep down, he knew loneliness was killing him as quietly as his blood pressure. You have 14 days, Darius said. 2 weeks. That's it. In 2 weeks, you need another plan. I'll help you find resources, but you can't just live in my house. Tears spilled down Renee's face again. 2 weeks, she repeated, like the words were oxygen. Thank you. I won't waste it. I promise. Darius looked around. You'll sleep in the back room. My kids and I will take the front rooms. Kitchen is shared. Bathrooms are shared. No strangers in or out. And the window stays locked. Renee nodded like a student taking notes. Mia blinked up at Renee's kids. Ava stared back, still suspicious. Noah hid behind Renee's elbow. Darius clapped his hands once, like he could clap the awkwardness away. All right, we're here now. Let's figure this out. And that was the beginning of the strangest 2 weeks of Darius Cole's life. The first morning was the kind of awkward you can taste. Darius woke up early out of habit, stepped into the kitchen, and froze when he saw Renee already there, quietly making oatmeal. She turned, startled. Oh, I'm sorry. I can stop. Darius rubbed his eyes. It's fine. Mia and Jaden shuffled in half asleep, and Ava and Noah followed behind Renee like ducklings. The kids stared at each other like they were in a new school on the first day. Curious, guarded, unsure who belonged where. Renee set 4 bowls on the table, then hesitated. I made enough for everyone, if that's okay. Darius looked at the bowls, then at Renee. You didn't have to. Renee's shoulders lifted in a small shrug. It's what I know how to do. Jaden climbed into a chair and whispered loudly to Mia. Daddy got roommates. Mia smacked his arm, but she smiled. Darius tried not to, but a tiny laugh escaped him. And just like that, the house shifted. Not warm yet, not comfortable, but alive. Days started stacking up. Mornings became a routine. Coffee for Darius, cereal arguments, and Renee packing snacks like she'd been doing it forever. There were school runs, Mia and Ava in the back seat pretending they weren't slowly becoming friends. Jaden and Noah trading toys like tiny businessmen. Chores happened without anyone needing to talk about it. Renee fixed the broken screen door with a little kit she bought from the hardware store. She scrubbed the porch so clean it looked new. She planted small flowers in old pots by the steps, saying softly, "A house feels better when something is growing." Darius told himself he didn't care. But every time he walked in and didn't smell dust and loneliness, his shoulders dropped just a little. And the kids started laughing more. One afternoon, Darius came home from a short grocery run and saw Renee in the living room folding laundry while Noah tried to help by stuffing socks into a pillowcase. Ava looked up and said, "Mr. Cole, do you know how to play Uno?" Darius blinked. "Uno." Ava nodded like she was challenging him. Mia gasped, "Daddy, you're terrible at Uno." Renee's mouth twitched like she was trying not to smile. Darius sighed dramatically. "First of all, I'm not terrible. Second of all, fine." They played Uno at the dining table until the sun went down. Darius kept losing because Jaden kept changing the rules, and Noah kept laughing like the whole world was a joke. At some point, Darius looked around and realized something dangerous. He felt good. Not successful. Not productive. Just good. And that scared him, because it reminded him how long he'd been living without that feeling. Now, in every story like this, there's always someone outside who notices and gets involved. In Pine Ridge, that person was Miss Patty. Miss Patty was the neighbor across the street, late 60s, sharp tongue, soft heart, and binoculars that should have been illegal. The first time she saw Renee hanging laundry on the porch line, she marched right over like she owned the neighborhood. Darius opened the door and immediately regretted it. Miss Patty looked past him, saw Renee in the background, and her eyebrows shot up. Well. Darius Cole, I leave town for a month, and you turn your mama's house into a whole family reunion. Darius muttered, "Miss Patty?" She stepped inside without being invited. "Don't Miss Patty me. I knew your mama. She'd rise up from the grave if she knew you were standing here looking confused in your own house." Renee rushed forward, nervous. "Ma'am, Miss Patty waved a hand. "Oh, hush. I can see you're not a criminal. Criminals don't fold towels like that. What's your name, honey?" "Renee. And these babies?" "Ava and Noah." Miss Patty looked at the kids like she was counting them. Then she turned to Darius with a grin. "So when's the wedding?" Darius nearly choked. "What?" Mia laughed so hard she snorted. Jaden clapped like it was a show. Renee's face turned red. No, ma'am, it's not like that. Miss Patty leaned close to Darius, whispering loudly enough for the whole room to hear. It always starts with, "It's not like that." Before Darius could recover, Miss Patty slapped his arm gently. "And you look tired, boy. Real tired. You still having that tight chest your mama used to fuss at you about?" Darius frowned. "How do you?" "My eyes work and my ears work," she said. "And my friend Dr. Klein works at the clinic down the road. You go see him while you're here. Stop acting like being strong means being silent." Just like that, Miss Patty became part of the story. Mentor, troublemaker, and full-time matchmaker. And sure enough, 2 days later, Darius found himself sitting in Dr. Klein's small office, getting his blood pressure checked again. Dr. Klein was an older white man with kind eyes and a calm voice. He listened, not just to symptoms, but to the quiet things behind them. When Darius mentioned being a single dad, the long work hours, the grief, the constant pressure, the doctor leaned back and said, "You're doing a lot alone." Darius's jaw tightened. "I'm managing." Dr. Klein nodded. "You are. But your body is telling me you're managing at a cost. Humans aren't built to carry everything by themselves forever." Darius didn't answer. The doctor continued gently. "Find connection. Find rest that actually rests you. Not just sleep. Peace. Laughter. People." As Darius walked out, Miss Patty was waiting in the parking lot like she planned it. "What did he say?" Darius tried to walk past her. "He said I'm stressed." Miss Patty hummed. "And he's right. Now go home and let that woman feed you something with vegetables." Darius groaned. "Miss Patty." She grinned. "Don't Miss Patty me. Go on." Now, the slow bonding was real, but it wasn't perfect. There were small arguments, like when Renee reorganized the pantry and Darius couldn't find the peanut butter and acted like it was a national emergency. Or when Darius told the kids no sugar before dinner, and Renee accidentally made cinnamon rolls that smelled so good even the walls wanted a bite. One night, Darius tried to cook to prove he could, and the chicken came out so dry Mia asked if they should water it like a plant. Renee laughed into her hand, trying not to embarrass him. "It's okay. We can make soup." Darius frowned. "I followed the instructions." Jaden said, dead serious, "Daddy, the chicken is mad at you." Even Darius couldn't hold his face straight after that. And somewhere between burnt chicken and Uno rematches, a small shift happened. Darius started watching Renee when she wasn't looking. Not in a creepy way. In a confused way. She moved like someone who'd learned to survive quietly. She never wasted food. She patched clothes instead of throwing them away. She smiled at her kids even when her eyes looked tired. And in the evenings, after the kids fell asleep, Renee sometimes sat on the back porch alone, staring at the lake like she was trying to hear a voice she missed. Darius understood that kind of silence. Then came the mini crisis. It happened on a rainy afternoon when Darius stepped out to get firewood and heard a sudden yelp from inside the house. Noah had tripped and bumped his knee on the corner of the coffee table. Not a big injury, just enough to scare him. But the sight of Noah crying, Renee shaking while trying to comfort him, Ava looking terrified like, this is how things get taken away. It hit Darius in a place he didn't expect. He knelt down beside Noah, awkward and unsure. Hey, it's okay. Let me see." Noah sniffled. "It hurts." Darius looked around. He'd never been good at the soft stuff. But he tried. He grabbed an ice pack from the freezer, wrapped it in a towel, and gently pressed it to Noah's knee. Noah flinched, then relaxed. Darius said, "You're tough, you know that?" Noah's lower lip trembled. "My daddy used to say that." Renee's eyes flicked to Darius, and her throat moved like she swallowed something heavy. Darius nodded slowly, like he understood exactly what that meant. He tried to lighten it. "Okay, tough guy. You get a superhero bandage, but only if you promise not to wrestle the coffee table again." Noah let out a tiny laugh through tears. Jaden burst in and shouted, "Noah is now part of the knee injury club." Mia rolled her eyes. "Jaden, that's not a club." Jaden shrugged. "It is now." And right there, in that silly moment, Noah looked up at Darius and whispered, "Can I call you Uncle D?" Darius froze. Renee's breath caught. Ava watched like she was holding her heart in her hands. Darius cleared his throat, pretending it didn't matter. "Yeah, sure. Uncle D is fine." But inside, something warm and dangerous spread through him, because it felt good to belong to someone again. Then, because life loves testing people who are starting to heal, Darius's old world came knocking. It arrived in the form of a shiny black SUV and a man in a crisp jacket who stepped out like he owned the road. Trevor Langston. Trevor was Darius's business partner on a side investment, a development deal in Charlotte that could make them a lot of money. The kind of money that keeps you busy forever. Trevor smiled too wide when Darius opened the door. "There you are. Man, you've been ignoring calls." Darius frowned. "I'm on vacation." Trevor glanced past him and saw the toys on the floor. Then he saw Renee in the kitchen behind them, wiping hands on a towel. Trevor's smile shifted into something smug. "Oh, I see. You got company." Renee stiffened. Darius's jaw tightened. Trevor stepped inside without asking, because men like Trevor always step inside without asking. "Listen, we need your signature. The investor meeting got moved up. If you don't sign, we lose the deal." Darius took the papers, flipping through them. His chest tightened, not from illness this time, but from pressure. Trevor leaned closer. "This is the opportunity. Don't tell me you're about to throw away millions to play house in the woods." Renee's eyes dropped to the floor. Ava and Noah peeked from the hallway, sensing tension. Trevor's gaze slid to Renee again. "And who is she? A caretaker? Somebody you found out here?" Darius's voice went cold. "Watch your mouth." Trevor raised his hands like he was innocent. "I'm just saying, don't let distractions ruin your future. If you've ever had someone talk down on the very thing that's keeping you alive, you know it can make your blood boil." Darius looked at the papers again. For a second, he imagined returning to Charlotte, back to endless calls, stressed dinners, fake laughs, and being fine, until his body finally gave out. Then he looked at Renee, standing quiet but proud, trying to be small so she wouldn't cause problems in a house she never wanted to steal. He looked at the kids, who had more laughter in a week than he'd seen in months, and he made a choice. Darius handed the papers back. "I'm not signing today." Trevor blinked. "What?" Darius stepped forward, voice firm. "I said I'm not signing today. If the deal can't wait 3 days, it's not a deal I want." Trevor's face tightened. "Darius, don't be stupid." Darius pointed toward the door. "Leave." Trevor stared like he couldn't believe a man would choose peace over ego. Then he smirked. "Fine, but don't come crying when you regret this." He walked out, tire-spitting gravel like an insult. When the door shut, the house stayed quiet. Renee spoke softly. "You didn't have to do that." Darius didn't look at her. "Yes, I did." And that's the moment the countdown started feeling real. Because 2 weeks wasn't just a time limit for Renee. It was a time limit for the life Darius thought he had to live. That night, Renee moved differently, like someone trying not to leave footprints. She washed dishes quicker. She tucked the kids in earlier. She avoided Darius's eyes. And over the next 2 days, Darius noticed things. Renee making phone calls in the backyard, voice low. Renee writing notes on a small pad. Renee looking at rental listings on her crack phone late at night. Darius didn't ask at first, because part of him was scared of the answer. Then, on the 7th day, Renee said it out loud. They were standing in the kitchen, the kids outside playing tag, and Renee's hand shook slightly as she dried a plate. "I've been thinking," she said. "I'm going to leave before the 2 weeks." Darius froze. "What?" Renee forced a smile that didn't fit. "It's better. I don't want to cause trouble. That man today, your partner, he looked at me like I'm a stain. I don't want to be the reason you lose your future." Darius's voice came out rough. "You're not a stain." Renee shook her head. "I know what people see. I know what I am to them. A problem. A burden." She set the plate down carefully, like it might shatter if she wasn't gentle. "I'm grateful. More than you know. But it's safer if I go. For you. For my kids." Darius wanted to argue. He wanted to say, stay. He wanted to say a lot of things. But fear held his tongue, because if he asked her to stay, and she left anyway, it would feel like losing his wife all over again. So he swallowed and said the wrong thing. Do what you need to do. Renee nodded like she expected that, and it hurt her anyway. She walked away, and Darius stood in the kitchen staring at the empty space, like he'd just watched something good slip through his fingers. Now here's where everything changes, because later that night, Darius found the truth by accident. He was looking for the tape measure in the hallway closet when a voice floated from Renee's room, quiet, shaking. She was recording a voice note. Darius didn't mean to listen, but the words stopped him cold. I can't stay, Renee whispered, voice breaking. I can't, because the longer we're here, the more it feels like home. And I promised myself I wouldn't let my kids get attached to something that can be taken away. She sniffled. And I promised myself I wouldn't fall for him. But I think I am. I think I already did. Darius's heart slammed, so hard it felt like it hit his ribs. Renee continued. He's kind in the way that scares me. The quiet kind. The kind that shows up when the world is loud. And the kids, they laugh here. They sleep. They breathe. I forgot what that feels like. A pause. Then, the line that wrecked him. I'm leaving before I love him so much it breaks me again. Darius stepped back like he'd been caught stealing. The floor creaked. Silence. The door opened, and Renee stood there, phone in hand, eyes wide. They stared at each other, like two people standing on the edge of something huge. Renee's voice was barely a whisper. How much did you hear? Darius swallowed. Enough. Renee's cheeks flushed, and pain flashed across her face. Great. So now you know I'm pathetic. Darius stepped forward quickly. No. Don't call yourself that. Renee's eyes shined. Then what am I, Darius? A woman who broke into your life, because she had nowhere else to go. Darius's voice cracked, surprising him. You didn't break into my life. You brought it back. Renee blinked. Darius exhaled, like he'd been holding his breath for months. I heard you say you're falling for me. Renee flinched, embarrassed. I shouldn't have. It's stupid. Darius shook his head. It's not stupid. He looked down, then back up, and said the truth, raw and terrifying. I think I'm falling too. Renee's lips parted, but no words came. Darius stepped closer, careful. And it scares me, because I don't know how to lose someone again. I don't know how to. Renee's tears fell silently. I don't know either. For a moment, it felt like they might finally step into it, finally say the things they'd been swallowing. But fear is powerful. Renee wiped her face, shaking her head. That's why I have to go. Darius's chest tightened. Renee. She backed away like his hope was a fire too close to her skin. I can't build my kids' hearts on a maybe. I can't. Then she turned and closed the door softly, leaving Darius standing in the hallway like a man who just found treasure and then watched the ground swallow it. The next morning, Darius woke up early to the sound of a zipper. He sat up, heart racing, and ran into the hallway. Renee was by the front door with 2 suitcases. Ava stood beside her holding the stuffed rabbit. Noah clutched a small backpack. Mia and Jaden came out of their room, confused. Darius's voice was sharp. What are you doing? Renee didn't look at him. Leaving. Before this gets harder. Darius stepped closer, blocking the door. It already is harder. Renee finally lifted her eyes, and they were full of fear. Darius, please. Don't make me feel worse about this. He swallowed, voice lowering. You think you're protecting us, but you're also deciding for us. Renee's hands trembled on the suitcase handle. I don't have the right to ask for more. Darius's voice rose, not angry, desperate. Yes, you do. You have the right to be safe. Your kids have the right to sleep without being scared. Renee shook her head. And you have the right to your life. Your money. Your future. Your peace. Darius laughed, short and bitter. You think my old life was peace? Renee flinched. Ava whispered, Mom. Noah's eyes filled with tears again. And then Jaden, in his small 5-year-old voice, said the simplest truth in the room. Why are you leaving if you like being here? Everyone turned to him. Jaden shrugged like it was obvious. When I like something, I stay. Even when I'm scared. Daddy stayed with us when Mommy went to heaven. Darius's throat tightened. Renee covered her mouth, tears spilling faster now. Mia stepped forward and took Ava's hand, like she was choosing a side. We don't want you to go. Ava tried to be tough, but her chin wobbled. Renee whispered, Babies, Noah tugged her sleeve. Uncle D said I'm tough. I can stay. Renee's whole body sagged like she'd been holding herself up with pure willpower. Darius stepped closer, voice gentler now. Renee, I'm not asking you to promise forever today. I'm asking you to not run away while we're still breathing. Renee shook her head, crying. I'm terrified. Darius nodded. Me too. He took a breath and said, Stay one more day. No promises. No pressure. Just one more day. Renee stared at him, like she was trying to decide if hope was worth the risk. Then she nodded, barely. One more day. Darius exhaled like he'd been underwater. But life wasn't done testing them. That night, the major crisis hit. It started small. Noah complained of being cold even though the house was warm. Then he got quiet. Too quiet. Renee touched his forehead, and her face drained of color. He's burning up. Noah's cheeks were flushed. His eyes looked heavy. Darius stepped in, calm but alert. Okay, we need a thermometer. They checked, high fever. Renee's hand shook so badly, she almost dropped the thermometer. This happened once before, she whispered, voice breaking. When his dad was alive. Noah got sick, and I thought I was going to lose him. Her eyes snapped to Darius, wild. I can't lose anyone else. I can't. Outside, rain started slamming the roof harder, and the wind howled like it was angry. Darius grabbed the keys. We're going to the clinic. Renee hesitated. It's late, and the road near the lake floods. As if the world heard her, thunder cracked and the lights flickered. Then darkness. The power went out. Mia gasped. Jaden yelped. Ava grabbed Renee's arm. Noah whimpered, weak. Renee looked like she might collapse. And in that moment, Darius became something else. Not a stressed manager. Not a lonely widower. A steady hand. He grabbed a flashlight, found candles, and told the kids, Everybody stay in the living room. Mia, help Ava keep Jaden calm. Mia nodded, suddenly serious. Darius went back to Renee and Noah. We're not panicking. Hear me? We're not panicking. Renee cried. I'm trying. Darius nodded. Good. I need you with me. He filled a bowl with cool water, got cloths, and showed Renee how to press them gently on Noah's forehead and neck. He remembered what his wife's nurse once told him. Simple things that matter. They took turns through the long, endless night. Noah moaned softly. Renee whispered prayers under her breath. Darius sat on the floor beside the couch, refusing to let fear take the wheel. At one point, Renee broke. She buried her face in her hands and whispered, Please, God, I can't do this again. Darius's voice was quiet but strong. You're not doing it alone. Renee looked at him, eyes shining in the candlelight. Why are you being so kind? Darius swallowed hard. Because I know what it's like to be scared in the dark. And because I care about him. Renee's breath caught. And what about me? Darius didn't hesitate this time. I care about you too. A long pause. Then Renee whispered, I didn't think I deserved that again. Darius leaned closer, voice low. Maybe that's the lie grief tells us. That love ends, and we're not allowed to start over. Renee sobbed quietly, but she didn't pull away. Hours passed like years. Finally, near dawn, the storm eased. The power flickered back on with a hum. Darius immediately called the clinic's emergency line. Dr. Klein, sleepy but responsive, told them what to do, and an on-call nurse met them at a nearby urgent care once the roads cleared. By mid-morning, Noah's fever started dropping. Relief hit Renee so hard she nearly fell to her knees. She clutched Noah, tears running, whispering, Thank you, thank you, thank you. Ava cried quietly in the corner, hugging Mia like they'd known each other forever. Jaden, exhausted, mumbled, Noah better not join another club. Even Darius laughed softly. because humor was the only thing holding them together. When Noah finally fell into peaceful sleep, Renee and Darius stepped outside onto the porch, the world damp and clean after the storm. The lake was calm again, like it hadn't tried to swallow their peace a few hours earlier. They stood side by side, not touching, but close enough to feel each other breathing. Renee spoke first, voice small. "Last night you didn't run." Darius looked at her. "Neither did you." Renee's eyes shined. "I'm scared, Darius." He nodded. "Me too." She swallowed. "But I love you." Silence. The kind of silence that changes lives. Darius turned fully toward her, eyes steady. "I love you too. And I want this. Even if it's scary." Renee let out a shaky laugh, through tears. "Say it again." Darius smiled, small but real. "I love you." Renee stepped into him then, like her body, finally stopped fighting what her heart already knew. They held each other, gentle, careful, like two people holding something fragile and precious. And yes, there was a kiss. Soft, brief, the kind that says, "I'm here," more than anything else. Then, from inside the house, a sleepy voice shouted, "Yo, stop kissing. I'm trying to sleep." Jaden. Darius and Renee pulled apart, startled, then laughed so hard it almost hurt. Renee wiped her eyes. "Your son is something." Darius shook his head, smiling. "He's a whole alarm system." Now, love is beautiful, but love without action is just a feeling. So the next step, Darius had to prove he meant it. 2 days later, Trevor called again, angry, pushing. "Are you signing or not?" Darius stood on the porch with the phone, looking at the flowers Renee planted, looking at the kids playing tag in the yard. He took a breath. "No, Trevor. I'm out." Trevor snapped out. "You're throwing away everything." Darius's voice stayed calm. "I'm choosing everything that matters." Trevor scoffed. "For what? A woman you just met." Darius looked through the window and saw Renee helping Noah sip soup, her face soft with relief and love. He said, "For a family I didn't know I still had the courage to build." Then he hung up. And if you've ever ended a call that once controlled your life, you know how freeing that can feel. Darius didn't just quit a deal. He changed his direction. He arranged to sell his share, even if it meant less money. He talked to his boss about stepping down into a less demanding role. He decided to spend more time in Pine Ridge, managing smaller local projects that wouldn't eat his health alive. When Dr. Klein heard, he smiled. "That's the first good prescription you've given yourself." Miss Patty threw her hands up and shouted, "I told you, the Lord does not waste good porch space." And then came the commitment moment, imperfect, human, and real. It wasn't a fancy restaurant. No violin music. No giant ring and a glass of champagne. It happened in the kitchen. Renee was making coffee. Darius was rinsing dishes. The kids were drawing at the table, arguing about who stole whose crayon. Darius dried his hands, walked over, and leaned on the counter, nervous like a teenager. Renee raised an eyebrow. "Why are you standing like that?" Darius cleared his throat. "Okay, so, I'm not good at speeches." Mia whispered loudly to Ava, "Daddy is about to do something." Jaden gasped, "Is it a magic trick?" Darius shot him a look. "No magic tricks." He turned back to Renee, eyes serious. "I don't want a life where you have to run. I don't want the kids to ever feel like they don't belong." Renee's eyes widened, already filling. Darius continued, voice steady. "I want to wake up with you in this kitchen. I want to argue about peanut butter. I want to do school runs and grocery lists and late-night talks when the world is quiet." He swallowed. "So will you stay? Not for another day. Not for 2 weeks. But for real." Renee's hands flew to her mouth. "Darius." He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. Not a diamond ring. A simple little band, silver, plain, honest. Something he bought in town, because he didn't want to wait until life changed its mind. Renee laughed and cried at the same time. "You're serious?" Darius nodded. "I've never been more serious." Renee hesitated. Just a second, fear flickering like a shadow. Then Noah shouted, "Say yes, Mommy." Jaden added, If you say no, Daddy will start cooking again. Everyone laughed, even Renee. She nodded, tears falling. Yes. I'm scared, but yes. Darius let out a breath like he'd been holding it for years and slipped a band onto her finger. Miss Patty found out 10 minutes later, because Miss Patty always finds out, and she organized a celebration before Darius could even finish washing the dishes. It wasn't a fancy event. It was a neighborhood gathering in the backyard with folding chairs, string lights, and food that came from a dozen kitchens. People showed up with trays of mac and cheese, grilled chicken, cornbread, and pies that smelled like comfort. Dr. Klein came with his wife and told Darius, "Your numbers look better already." Like love was medical evidence. Miss Patty took the microphone nobody asked her to take and shouted, "I would like to announce that my matchmaking services remain undefeated." Everyone laughed and clapped while Darius shook his head, smiling like he couldn't believe this was his life. Ava stood beside Mia, holding her hand openly now. Noah called Darius Uncle D, so confidently you'd think it had always been that way. And Renee. Renee looked around like she couldn't believe people were cheering for her happiness. Now let's do the time skip, because the best payoff is always in the quiet moments. A year later, the Pine Ridge house looked different. Not bigger, not richer, just fuller. The porch had new paint. The flower pots overflowed with color. The kitchen smelled like pancakes on Saturday mornings. Darius woke up early, still a habit, but now it wasn't to check emails. It was to flip pancakes while Renee made coffee, humming softly. Mia and Ava danced around the living room in mismatched socks, laughing at their own jokes. Jaden and Noah built a blanket fort that somehow took over the entire hallway. And then, here's the twist. Renee walked into the kitchen with a hand on her belly, smiling like she was holding a secret. Darius looked up. "You okay?" Renee nodded, eyes bright. "Yeah." She paused for dramatic effect, because she'd learned from Miss Patty that life deserves a little drama. "We're okay," she corrected. Darius froze. "We." Renee smiled wider. "We." Darius stared like his brain needed a moment to catch up. Then he let out a sound that was half laugh, half disbelief, and pulled her into a careful hug. Mia squealed. Ava screamed. Jaden shouted, "I knew it!" Like he'd been predicting this for months. Noah blinked and asked, "Can the baby join a club?" Everyone laughed until their stomachs hurt. Later that morning, after the chaos settled, Darius stood on the porch with Renee beside him, watching the kids play in the yard. He looked healthier, not because life was perfect, but because life was real. He turned to Renee and said quietly, "You know, I came here looking for rest." Renee leaned into him. "And you found a whole family." Darius nodded, eyes soft. "Yeah." He watched Mia chase Ava, Jaden tackle Noah gently, their laughter rising into the bright morning air. And he realized something simple and powerful. He didn't just find love. He found home. Because sometimes, life doesn't change everything with a winning lottery ticket or a big promotion. Sometimes it changes everything with a broken window, a frightened woman holding a frying pan, and a choice to open the door anyway.